Listen to me. Listen to me. The Lord has revealed the Bible. Now we understand. It's all a conspiracy. The elites are sending information to our brains. Yes, and they're going to project a holographic Jesus in the skies. Yes, and there's going to be a fake rapture, and the aliens are going to be demons that are going to convince everyone about many things. But everything was in the Bible. Everything was in the Bible. Seriously, believe me? You don't believe me? I'm going to transmit it to you telepathically.
That you believe me?
We're sorry. The number you have dialed is not available.
Friends of Biblia Libre, how are you? My name is Edgar Escobar. Welcome to this new program, and today we bring you the most conspiratorial pastor in the world. Yes, folks, his entire speech is nothing more than an old conspiracy theory. Theories with no evidence or proof at all. And he tries to support that theory biblically. The first thing he says is that the enemy will imitate Christ with human technology.
What you're about to see is not a science fiction movie script, nor an internet conspiracy theory. It's the technological infrastructure that's already operating in our heads. While you're watching this video right now, this technological infrastructure is already working, and the global elite is about to activate it. Something even worse that you need to watch for. If tomorrow you wake up, look at the sky, and see an event that seems divine, your instinct will tell you to kneel. So when that happens, don't kneel. Don't do it. Don't kneel. Don't even look it in the eyes. Because the Bible left a millennia-old warning with surgical precision about this event and about this exact moment, revealing that the enemy would imitate the coming of Christ with human technology.
But Matthew 23, 24 obviously tells us that there will be false Christs and false prophets, but nowhere in the text is it talking about technology or things in the sky, holograms or anything like that. However, he tries to use fear tactics because that's what conspiracy theorists use. Fear. Fear is how they get their followers. Fear is how they make people blindly believe everything they say. That's why he keeps saying throughout his speech, maybe you don't understand me. If you didn't understand me with this, you definitely won't understand me. What else can I say? This is very clear. It's very obvious, right? These are reinforcing words so that people say, no, well, if he thinks anyone can understand that and I'm not getting it, then it must be true. I mean, yes, he's right. Should I be afraid because the elites are doing some technological thing to convince us of a lie? Well, that's what he says about the Blue Beam project.
Listen to him when this project is activated. All right? This is the project I've been mentioning little by little, the one they call Blue Beam. The Blu-ray. That's what this project is called. And from this moment on, you are going to understand the 4 phases of the geopolitical and spiritual plan and of this project. Blue Beam, which is really going to... You'll feel pressure since the Bible already warned about it.
Calm down. Calm down.
The Blue Beam project. It's an old conspiracy theory, more than 35 years old. This conspiracy theory claims that the elites are going to use holograms, and they're going to put on a whole show of the second coming of Christ. Well, to deceive the chosen ones, right? That's basically the idea. And within this, there are 4 parts to this Blue Beam project theory. And he explains each one of them, which shows that obviously he read the pamphlet, he read the book, and the reprints of the book, which are about these kinds of topics. And what he did was take the entire Blue Beam project theory, take the Bible, and shoehorn the Bible into each part of the Blue Beam project theory. Let's listen to the first part that he explains. And he tells us in some way how the Bible fits with what these conspiracy theorists commonly call it.
Project. But phase one is the HAARP project. HAARP. The project that causes or triggers earthquakes. The first step doesn't come from the sky. It comes from deep within the earth, not the sky.
And according to him, he's researched the subject a lot.
Because what I'm about to say will be something strong. Something I've been preparing step by step until I gathered all the evidence. To give you everything in this video, I'll talk to you about the 4 phases. I've been studying this, investigating if it's true, investigating whether it's maybe a theory or a reality or a doctrine, looking at the biblical texts, if they fit, if they're in context, precisely. And after having done the analysis, I'm bringing you everything right here in this video, not some other one, this video.
The methodology. Go to
The internet and all the answers are there, of course, because the internet always tells us the truth, right? The internet is full of answers. Oh my God, what would we do without the absolute truth the internet gives us? But anyway, the thing with the HAARP project is that it's basically a project that exists. I mean, it's not a lie. The HAARP project exists, brother. Yes, but it's not exactly what they say it is. The thing is, these conspiracy theories take half-truths, twist them, and say, they sold us this. But it's really something else, right? That's what they're trying to do. These conspiracy theories take half-truths, twist them, and say they sold us this, but it's really something else. That's what they're doing all the time. We don't doubt that governments lie to us, not at all. But taking it to the extreme like these people do, that's another level. You need the HAARP project. What they're trying to say is that it aims to cause a series of earthquakes all over the world so that we can make archaeological discoveries. And he even says that the earthquakes in Venezuela are to find archaeological things. Or after this video, in this video, we will find archaeological things that will change history. What kind of archaeological discoveries could we find in Venezuela that would change history? I don't doubt that there are important archaeological finds in Venezuela. But for it to have to do with Christianity or with all of history, soyon, maybe an earthquake over there in the Holy Land or something like that, right? That's what I think.
I don't know.
But according to him, great discoveries will be found in Venezuela because the electromagnetic injection frequencies will cause those earthquakes. And Donald Trump knows it. That's why he gathered the pastors to tell them no, that those were extraterrestrials and presented evidence of them. A bunch of things that are obviously pure lies and nonsense. If you haven't seen our video exposing the fake meeting between pastors and Donald Trump, I'll leave it here. But what he says they're going to find is the very body of Jesus.
Not to say a decrepit old man. He gathered the pastors there at the Pentagon. He gathered the pastors for what? To reveal to them files related to extraterrestrials. That's the Blue Beam Project. That's the Blue Beam Project. And that's the first phase. But the first phase is related to unearthing archaeological discoveries related to religion. Most likely, they'll find the body of Jesus. Obviously, that's false.
This is very unsettling. But the movie will be interesting.
And is his argument an Antonio Banderas movie? And he bases all of this on Luke chapter 21, verse 11. And there will be great earthquakes, and in various places famines, plagues, and there will be terror and great signs in the sky.
You see, brother, great signs in the sky, earthquakes. That's where the HAARP project comes in.
The text explains what will happen, but the text doesn't say how it's going to happen or what will cause the earthquakes in any way. In fact, what the Bible tells us is that earthquakes or any kind of disaster that happens in nature is allowed and produced by God. Nothing is out of God's hands. To say that man is capable with a technological project of moving the tectonic plates is pretty naive, honestly. And in the context of Matthew 24 and in Mark 13, specifically in verse 8, it shows this is only the start of sorrows. That all of this then is part of the fallen history of humanity. earthquakes and disasters have always occurred, and the HAARP project hasn't always existed. And the HAARP project does exist. And it exists in Alaska. It stands for High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program. And it's a scientific project that tries to study the ionosphere. Now, what does the ionosphere have to do with earthquakes? We don't know. And the thing is, around that big project and the number of antennas they set up there in Alaska, several conspiracy theories were generated, which led to different books that contradict each other, because in the end, they have no evidence for their claims despite their strong oaths. What's true is they made a lot of money selling books on this topic. That much we have to be honest about. This was very popular in the late 80s and early 90s. And well, nowadays, let's say, it's one of those conspiracy theories that's fading away. But this man found Bible verses to prove it. The fact that Luke says there will be earthquakes and signs in the skies. I don't know how that proves. It's because of the HAARP project. Number 2, Starlink satellites. Yes, gentlemen, because these theories keep growing over the years. And here he already includes Elon Musk and the whole Starlink satellite project.
Phase 2, this phase 2 really made me think. I mean, honestly, I hadn't been so impacted just by looking at it. How terrifying the elites are. I hadn't been so impacted. I was really shocked. Really shocked to the sky screen. The Starlink satellites. The Starlink satellites are real. I have the Bible in my hand, so you can see I'm not just a scientist.
He definitely only has the Bible in his hand, not in his head. And yes, my dear pastor, or imposter, as I would call you, obviously you are not a scientist. That's why it doesn't make the slightest sense for you to talk about these kinds of things. I'm not a scientist either. I can't give you scientific explanations. But with the little scientific, logical, and rational knowledge, I can tell that this is nothing more than an absolute exaggeration. Because among other things, the Starlink project doesn't try, as you say, to give free internet to everyone. No. All of this has always been about charging, and charging a lot for providing internet.
The sky will become a three-dimensional screen where the sodium layer of the atmosphere will serve to reflect gigantic optical holograms.
But according to him, all of this is to create a hologram in the sodium layer of the atmosphere.
According to him, every person on the planet will see their deity. Really, when they project that into the sky, onto the sodium layer, we are going to see Jesus. Muslims will see Muhammad. Hindus are going to see Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, I suppose. Because if they're going to see the other thousands of deities they have, well, the projection wouldn't be enough for them, I guess. And then all those deities merge into a single deity. It sounds spectacular. But it's not in the Bible. And it's literally impossible. I mean, there are only about 90 kilometers of that sodium layer floating there in the atmosphere. You can point a laser and make a little light appear, like making the sodium layer shine. That's what you can do. Yes, what technology would be needed to project a supposed hologram? Besides, the term would be misused. Well, it's not possible. There's a very low density of sodium. The constant movement of the atoms doesn't allow it. Variations in concentration don't allow it either. Atmospheric dispersion prevents it. The enormous distance between the satellites and that layer of sodium is something he can't understand. The observer's different angle. It would be impossible to produce an image that doesn't change depending on the angle from which someone observes it. Visibility in broad daylight, absolutely impossible to see anything in the skies. Definitely, scientifically, it's absolutely absurd. And he includes the UAPs in this. For him, UFOs are a marketing campaign to get us used to looking at the sky. That's why movies now talk so much about UFOs as if they didn't talk about UFOs before.
But he has his biblical basis. Listen.
Seca. Look at what the Bible says in Isaiah 14. Look, pay attention. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. Who is speaking?
Who is speaking? Who is speaking? Well, verse 4 tells us, you will use this proverb against the king of Babylon. Yes, it's talking about the king of Babylon. Pride of the king of Babylon. I really don't think that text is talking about Satan, as he tries to imply. Even if it referred to Satan, the text isn't about the future. It refers to something he attempted before, supposedly to take God's throne. But I can't project analytically and exegetically that text into a future where he tries to rise above the earth and thus have God's throne. Because no, that's pure eisegesis. That's adding something. The text doesn't say. But then he uses Revelation chapter 13.
Revelation 13. Revelation 13. 13. Look at what it says. That becomes more serious. Open the Bible. He also performs great signs. And those are the signs. Those are the signs in the sky. Those are the projections. Those are the glowing apparitions that are going to move. The technology is already doing it. In such a way that it even makes fire come down from heaven to earth in the sight of men. That's it. They're already working on it. What did you think?
Yes, great signs. That's it. There are the signs. What will be projected in the sky? Are those the great signs? No, the text itself is saying that the signs are that fire will fall from the sky. That's exactly what the text says. Read it. He also performs great signs, so that he even makes fire come down from heaven to earth in the sight of men. The sign is not a fake hologram in the sky. The sign is that real fire falls on the earth. That is the sign. Maybe the closest thing would be verse 14, saying to those who dwell on the earth to make an image to the beast. But nothing indicates that it is a holographic image in the sky. Nothing in the text says that. Most likely it is simply talking about an idol. That's just how they speak in their language, right? Including holograms and technology here is clearly an anachronism. They don't relate to the period or original intent of the work. Number 3, the inner voice, artificial telepathy, and B2K technology. This is incredible. It says nothing.
Let's talk about phase 3. The inner voice, artificial telepathy, and B2K technology.
And he uses this. There are people here who have heard voices in their heads, right? That's why they're speaking directly into their heads.
They should see a doctor since it could be schizophrenia. Also, during their speech, he says that's why he no longer believes prophets, since prophets hear an inner voice, which could be sent telepathically like this. So he prefers not to believe prophets anymore, even though he says he believes in the prophetic ministry and the prophetic gift, but he won't believe them anymore. I mean, it's as if God were saying, oh, I'm still speaking through prophets, and I haven't realized they're over there talking telepathically with this technological project. What a mistake! I didn't consider it. I mean, it's a somewhat absurd contradiction. If God has true prophets today who still give messages, I should believe them, right? I suppose otherwise, why would God waste his time giving words to prophets?
What you're going to hear inside your head, inside your own skull, is what's terrifying, what's serious, what's catastrophic. Through the use of extremely low frequency waves, such as LF and real military technology, known as voice, B2K, voice to skull.
Now, there are scientific studies that prove that certain things can be transmitted to the skull, right? Certain sensations and sounds, but not telepathically. The method used is called thermoelastic. That is, they are vibrations that basically make the skull vibrate. And that's why certain sounds are heard that, well, they are not transmitted through the air as such, but in another way. But the one with the biblical arguments wasn't convinced by this.
In which you once walked, following the current. That current consists of frequency currents, electromagnetic currents, Wi-Fi, Starlink, which is the free internet. It's 6G technology, which will be internet technology using satellites. According to the Prince of Authority, the one who controls the air, the one who changes, the one who alters atmosphere, the spirit that now operates in the children of disobedience, in the elites, the spirit that is operating in Elon Musk, in Donald Trump, even in Benjamin Netanyahu.
This is the most obvious linguistic abuse in the video. Totally. The word that is translated as current, there is the Greek ion, which means era, age, course, right? What it's saying is not that there will be electromagnetic currents. We can't understand current there as in Spanish, but rather as the ways of this world, meaning trends according to this world, ways of thinking. That is the course of this world, not the electric current. Anyone can basically see that by reading the text, please. How can you believe this guy? For God's sake. That's like reading Jesus is the way and thinking he is literally Highway 45. When the text mentions the prince of the power of the air, it's not talking about this air. I mean, within their worldview, they're talking about the spiritual world. That's why the word in Greek is air, which means a region below the sky, okay? A spiritual region that obviously has contact with us. But it's not talking about electromagnetic waves or anything like that. He's committing an anachronism again, putting things from our time into a text that's over 2,000 years old. And he keeps arguing.
2 Corinthians chapter 11 verse 14 is even stronger. It's even stronger. And it's no wonder. Don't be amazed by that. I mean, don't say, wow, that's incredible. Wow, they're going to talk to me through voice to skull. It's no wonder. It's no wonder. Because even Satan disguises himself as an angel of light. Whoever doesn't know that technology will think they've had a divine revelation.
In this context, he's not talking about voices. He's talking about false teachers. Look at what verse 13 says. Because these are false apostles, deceitful workers who disguise themselves as apostles of Christ. In other words, they are amazed, not because they hear voices in their brain. They are amazed because there are false apostles. That's absurd. That's incredible, isn't it? And then when he talks about the light doesn't have a physical meaning. He's not talking about light as something that is projected in the sky or light as something that speaks into our heads. He's talking in a moral sense. It's the most natural way to interpret this text. But if he's going to add his own ideas, if he wants to match up the whole conspiracy theory with the Bible, then by force shoehorning it in, well, anything goes. Fourth point. The three traps, invasion, and the false rapture. Yes, sir. He explains it clearly.
Let's look at phase 4. The three simultaneous traps, invasion, and the false rapture.
Claims he can't discuss the New World Order because his video gets blocked, but that's just not true. The term New World Order is still used in sociology today to describe how the world is being reorganized. That has good things and bad things, more bad than good, really. But beyond that, talking about a new world order as something planned by the elites, almost as if it escapes the divine plan, is just to scare people. Now, he talks about three things, about three massive drills. First, the fake alien invasion, where they'll have to unify the armies and all that. Which one? Where in the Bible? There are only a few verses about that, right? He got that from conspiracy theories, not scripture. Scripture doesn't mention extraterrestrials. Number 2, the false rapture. Listen to what he says about it.
The false rapture. And we've talked a lot about the false rapture. A mass disappearance event will be staged. I don't know if they've been telling you about that event, that a mass disappearance is coming. That's coming. That's coming. For whom? Or a fake divine rescue to push unsuspecting believers into panic, into confusion, and to follow false directives. So before the real rapture, is there going to be a false rapture? Yes. Will there be a false rapture? Yes. Are there going to be several false raptures? Yes. Matthew 24 says so.
Where in Matthew 24 is the false rapture mentioned? I find some expressions between verses 29 and 31. It says, immediately after the tribulation of those days. Later it says, he will send his angels and he will gather the elect. If they are elect, it's not a false rapture. It would be a real rapture if that's what it means by the rapture. But beyond all this, there is nothing in the Bible that talks to us about false raptures or several false raptures. He says, there are already reports of people disappearing. People have always disappeared. Please disappear, sir. That they disappear en masse? Where exactly? It's just that there are reports people have heard. There are people who say, evidence, sir, evidence. If a large number of people disappeared in one place, it would be world news. I haven't seen that reported in world news. Then he talks about the third point.
Global electronic anarchy. Listen to him.
2 Thessalonians chapter 2 verses 9 to 11. And the lawless one whose coming is by the work of Satan, with great power and lying signs and wonders in the heavens, specters, virtual reality, images created through technology, and with all deception of unrighteousness for those who are perishing. There are the four phases, because they did not receive the love of the truth to be saved. For this reason, God sends them a deluding influence so that they will believe the lie. And God allows it.
According to him, in 2 Thessalonians 2, all four of those phases are there. Where does the Bible talk about a global electronic anarchy? It doesn't say it anywhere, because it's an anachronism, because it has nothing to do with what the apostles were writing. They didn't know about those technologies, nor was it the Lord's purpose to reveal them in any way, not even symbolically or secretly. No, it doesn't make any sense. In fact, in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, it says, with great power and lying signs and wonders. The text never says, as he claims, in the heavens. The text, Paul, is talking about great powerful signs with miraculous wonders, but he's not saying that they are going to be, that is something he infers. The text also doesn't say that they will be specters, or that it will be virtual reality, or that they will be technological images, or that they will be satellites, or voices directed into the head, or the Blue Blink Project. None of that is said in the text. It's adding something to the text that the text doesn't say. And the Bible teaches us not to go beyond what the Bible itself teaches. He advises people to be aware and take advantage of his insights, as he is wise and researched thoroughly on Google to reach these conclusions. He watched a lot of videos, that's for sure. He watched a lot of videos. But the Apostle Paul, in verse 12, gives a very different warning, so that all who did not believe the truth may be condemned, but instead took pleasure in unrighteousness. In other words, they were not condemned since they were unaware of Project Blue Beam, right? Oh, no, we knew about that Project Blue Blink thing, so that's why condemnation came. No, their condemnation came because they took pleasure in injustice, since they didn't believe the truth. That's what the text is trying to teach. It's not trying to teach anything about electronics or technology or secret projects. None of that. But where did he get all these lies? Well, he got them from a man was named Sergei Monat, a Canadian who in 1990 began to put together various conspiracy theories that mixed truths with lies and created his own conspiracy theory. This man was a writer, a lecturer, Roman Catholic, among other things. Yes, it uses a lot of Christian language, but from a Catholic perspective. And how do I know he's Roman Catholic? He wrote a text, hard to find, called The Medal or Cross of Saint Benedict. It all comes from the medal. He says in this video absolutely everything, with some variations of things that were added over the years. He took it from this one, from this man. It's all a conspiracy theory from this guy, Monat. Everything. Even the 4 points. But it's a theory that's pretty discredited. Monat never presented original secret documents. The dates he gave failed, because at first he was like a kind of prophet, right? He said, all of this is going to happen in 1983. Then he said, no. In 85, then no. In 96, then no. In 2000, right? Well, that never happened. And we already know that, don't we? It's a very old theory. Besides, his texts circulate on the internet and have anachronisms, which means that people have been adding things to the text, which makes this conspiracy theory very hard to believe. Also, the man in his writings confuses holography with projection in the air. A hologram is not the same as projection in the air. They're two different things. There were also completely unscientific claims that go against what neuroscience teaches. And his text and this whole idea, my dear brothers, really seems to be plagiarism from two sources, which is called The God Thing, right, by Jen Roddenberry, a text from 1975. And the second source, you might not believe it, but you can check it yourself. Just search on Google. From an episode of Star Trek called Devil's Due. Star Trek: The Next Generation aired in 1991. 3 years before Monat's text. In that episode, that's exactly what happens. They project something in the sky that makes people profess religious faith in what they project in the sky. Yes, so it's a really bad theory. Brothers, don't trust this man. He's a false pastor and teacher. He doesn't know the Bible, has no idea, misinterprets verses, and is unfamiliar with exegesis or hermeneutics. He does eisegesis and is an expert at it. If I tell him that, I bet he'll thank me, since I doubt he even knows what eisegesis means. His biblical interpretation is very mediocre, and all he does is spread terror and fear among people. Extreme dispensationalism, completely contrary to the Bible. Completely contrary. The Bible says in Isaiah 8:12, do not call everything these people call conspiracy a conspiracy, nor fear what they fear, nor be afraid. The Lord of hosts, him you shall regard as holy. Let him be your fear, and let him be your dread. Christians are not afraid of blue beam projects or HAARP or hearing voices in our heads. None of those things. We are not afraid of that. Because no matter what conspiracy exists in this world, God already knew about it. And not only did he know about it, he allowed it. And not only did he allow it, he manipulates and manages it so that his plan is fulfilled. God has everything under control. Everything. Nothing slips out of his hands. Nothing. Absolutely not. So even if this existed, and I'm absolutely sure it's a complete lie and a bunch of nonsense, even if that existed, God would already know about it. God is not in heaven panicking. What am I going to do now with the Blue Beam project? Blue Beam? No, this got out of hand. No! All is part of the divine plan. But what do you think about this conspiracy theory? Do you agree or not? Write it here in the comment box. Share this video across all social media. And please give it a like. And subscribe. Thank you for joining us at Biblia Libre.